What's going on, guys? This is John with Red, White, and Barbecue, and today we're going to be cooking some spare ribs. So I've rinsed these off and patted them dry, and the first step we're going to do with these is to wipe them down with a little bit of olive oil. Now this olive oil is just going to be a little bit of a bonding agent to get that rub to stick, to get that nice bark. So we just want to do a little bit, just enough to get the rub to stick, but not too much to where it starts clumping. We won't get that nice bark. So the recipe we're cooking with today is delicious. I've cooked it at multiple relatives' grad parties and other gatherings, and I've actually had people offer me to hire to cook them at their next party or gathering multiple times. So I know these are going to turn out fantastic. Again, just a little bit of olive oil. Rub it on there nice and evenly. Now do your best to pull the membrane off this backside. But as we all know, that can be one of the most difficult things you'll ever do. I got about half of them off each one. It's no big deal if you can't get the whole thing off. Alright, so now that these have a nice coat of olive oil, we are going to prepare our rub. So the rub we're making for these ribs today is a pretty simple rub. We're going to start off with a half cup of packed brown sugar. New bowl. We're going to go 1 tablespoon of garlic powder. A tablespoon each of salt and pepper. Tablespoon of onion powder. Tablespoon of dry mustard powder. And these last two are what going to give us this nice dark bark color when these are on the smoker. So we're going to do a tablespoon of chipotle chili pepper. And lastly, a tablespoon of cayenne pepper. So now that we have everything in our bowl, we're just going to lightly mix it with our hands. Just mix it till everything looks nice and even, all the spices and the brown sugar. And it should end looking something about like this. So now that we have this rub all mixed up, we can go ahead and put it on the ribs. Now you can be pretty generous with this rub because, well, it tastes so damn good. So the way I like to set up my ribs is that the rub has a little bit of spice in it and the sauce is a little bit of sweet. A little sweet and a little heat. So that creates a really good balance. Now if you like them spicier, the cayenne pepper in the rub is a good measure of how spicy you want your ribs to be. About the tablespoon that we put in is about the benchmark for this rub. Not too spicy, but there's still enough there to taste it. If you like your ribs a little more spicy, you can go ahead and put more cayenne pepper on them. So let's just finish rubbing these up. Also, this rub recipe is good for about 4 racks of ribs. I put a little bit, when I do less, I put a little bit in my sauce just to get a good flavor on it, whatever's left. So if you're making more than 4 racks, you can double, triple the recipe, whatever you need. Alright, so we got these bad boys all rubbed down. So ideally you want to put this rub on, have it sit overnight to let the meat take in all the spices and the sugars from the rub. Or at minimum, do it earliest as you can in the morning before you put them out on the cooker. So once it's time to throw these on, we'll check back in. Alright, now that the Weber's sitting at right about 235, it's time to put the ribs on. Since we're doing 3 slabs today, I'll be putting one on the lower rack. Now you can be used one of those rib racks where they hold them horizontally, but just to show the versatility of the Smoky Mountain, I'll be putting this first one right on the bottom rack, directly over the water pan. Since the top rack can fit 2, put the other 2 right up on the top.
Now the method to use to smoke these is the 2-2-1 method. My little revision of it is the 2-2 grill, where we'll do 2 hours directly on the smoke, 2 hours wrapped up in foil, and then I'll sauce them and finish them up on the grill. About 1 hour into this first 2 hours, I'll come back with some butter to put on to make sure they stay nice and moist. One of the best features with the Smokey Mountain is its big water pan sitting right below the lower rack. Now I'll fill this up with about 2 gallons of water before I do my ribs, and it steams and keeps the meat moist throughout the duration of the cook. Now it also helps keep the temperature steady. When you're first heating up, the water will absorb the heat from the coals, but after a while, when it gets to its peak temperature, it'll just hold the temperature steady if your fire dies down a little bit or something like that. So I'd always recommend filling it up with 2 to 3 gallons of water before you cook. So let's close it up and check back in an hour. So right now we're about an hour into the cook, so let's take the lid off and see how the ribs look. They look like they're right on schedule. So I just have a little melted butter in this squirt bottle right here, and I'm just gonna squirt some right over the top of these 2 racks. Now I'm not going to worry too much about getting it down onto the lower rack where the 3rd slab is sitting, because these, as they cook, they'll continually drip down onto the lower slab. So let's check back in another hour when we're ready to foil them. Okay, we're back. These ribs have been on for about 2 hours in the smoke. Now it's time to wrap them up to really lock in that moisture. And we're also going to add a little honey to the outside to start incorporating a little bit of the sweetness to the second half of the cook. If you remember, the rub started off a little bit spicy. Now we're going to get a little bit sweet with the honey and the wrap, and later with the sauce. So let's pull these slabs off. These are looking great. Just starting to get a little bit of a bark on the outside. 2 hours on the smoke. Go ahead and put the lid back on while we get these first 2. So I don't need too much honey, because you don't want it to be over sweet, because we still have the sauce to put on. But just dribble around, up and down the top of the slab. We go right back up. Do the same with the other one. Nice and even. Now this honey's gonna add a little bit of sweetness. It's also gonna keep these ribs nice and moist when they're inside this foil. Now we're gonna flip the slab over, because you're gonna wrap it the bottom side up. So the side with the bones up. You're still gonna put honey on that end too. So to wrap them, start to fold up these edges. Turn a little bit so you can see it. You're gonna want to fold in the edge. Remember, don't get it too tight, because the bones will puncture the foil. You'll lose all the moisture you're locking in. Once you have the ends folded in, grab the top, curl it in to create a nice seal. There, this one's ready to go back on. Now we just got to take off this top rack to get to the slab that's down below. Okay, gonna go ahead and throw this one back on. And throw the top rack back on. Okay, these are gonna sit back in the smoker for another 2 hours. So this is the second part of the 2-2 grill method. It doesn't really matter if you keep feeding it wood chips or not, because the smoke's not gonna penetrate the aluminum foil. But you're gonna wanna keep an eye on the smoker. Make sure you're keeping that temperature steady between 225 and 245. That's the 20-degree range I like to keep it in. So we'll check back after 2 hours and see how these boys are doing. All right, so after 2 hours wrapped in the foil, I've pulled them off the smoker and cut them up in about 2 to 3 bone pieces. And I've coated my sauce on them generously. You can find the sauce in another one of my videos. So now I'm just gonna finish them off on the barbecue to get the sauce to glaze on, thicken up a little bit, and finish off those ribs.
Exact grilling time really depends on the weight of the slabs. Now after 4 hours on the smoke, the ribs are very close to being done. So I start with just about 5 minutes per side, let that sauce thicken up, and wait till that meat really starts to pull off the bone to finally pull the ribs off the grill. It's done. Now we're gonna give them a quick flip. See that sauce is cooking on there, thickening up. Man, these are looking really good. Okay, so the final step is done. We're ready to take these bad boys off. Let me find one that looks good. Show you how tender these get. Bone's coming right out. Look at that. Hot. Bone's coming clean off. What else could you want? Hope you guys get to try this for yourself, and hope you enjoy it.